Have you ever felt that your home needs more than just decorations to achieve that longed-for peace? What I'm about to reveal will transform not only your garden, but your entire spiritual life. Saint Pio of Pietrelcina, known worldwide as Padre Pio, kept a sacred knowledge for years that few know until today. The divine power hidden in 3 specific plants. Imagine for a moment that your garden could become a direct channel of heavenly blessings. That every morning upon waking, you would have the certainty that the plants you cultivate are not mere decorative elements, but true instruments of divine protection. This is not common knowledge. In fact, it has remained hidden for decades, shared only among Padre Pio's closest followers. During his years of ministry, Padre Pio experienced countless miraculous manifestations, among them the gift of bilocation, the ability to read souls, and the power of healing. But there was something more, something few knew: his deep connection with certain elements of nature that, according to him, God had specifically designated to protect and bless our homes. What I'm about to share with you are not mere gardening tips. They are spiritual revelations that Padre Pio shared with some of his closest followers, and that now, for the first time, will be revealed in their entirety. These 3 sacred plants have the power to transform your home into a true sanctuary of peace and blessing. But I must warn you, this knowledge carries a great responsibility. They are not mere plants. They are conduits of divine power that require respect and dedication. Thousands of people who have followed these teachings have experienced extraordinary changes in their lives, from inexplicable healings to miraculous protections of their homes. Are you ready to discover this sacred knowledge? Do you dare to transform your home into a true portal of heavenly blessings? What you will learn in the next few minutes could change your life forever. Stay with me, because you are about to discover one of the best-kept secrets of the most miraculous saint of the 20th century. Padre Pio was no ordinary man, and what I'm about to share are not ordinary teachings either. During his years in San Giovanni Rotondo, this humble Capuchin friar witnessed events that defied all human explanation. Among his many mystical gifts, there was one particularly special: his ability to recognize the divine presence in nature. Every morning, as he walked through the convent gardens, Padre Pio would stop before certain plants, and those who accompanied him noticed how his face would transform. Some witnesses claim that at those moments, an inexplicable scent of roses filled the air, even when there were no roses nearby. This phenomenon, known as the perfume of sanctity, manifested especially when the saint was in deep connection with these sacred elements of nature. The Vatican archives hold astonishing testimonies of people who, following Padre Pio's recommendations on these 3 specific plants, experienced extraordinary transformations in their lives. A woman from Naples, after planting these species in her garden, witnessed the inexplicable healing of her son. A man from Sicily saw his bankrupt business begin to prosper after following these teachings. But Padre Pio insisted, it's not about superstition or magic. It's the manifestation of divine power through God's creation. He used to quote the book of Genesis, recalling how God created each plant with a specific purpose. Every leaf, every flower, he said, is a love letter from God to his children. His teachings on these 3 specific plants were not accidental. They were deeply rooted in biblical tradition and his own mystical experience. During more than 50 years of ministry, Padre Pio observed surprising patterns. Families who kept these plants in their homes seemed to be especially protected. Their houses became true havens of peace, where blessings flowed abundantly. It was no coincidence. It was the result of ancient wisdom that the saint had received through his mystical experiences. But there is an important warning. These plants are not mere lucky charms. Padre Pio emphasized that their power is directly related to the faith and devotion of those who cultivate them. They are sacred tools that God has provided to strengthen our spiritual connection, to remind us of his constant presence in our lives. What we are about to explore is not just information, it is an invitation to participate in a sacred tradition that has transformed countless lives, a tradition that Padre Pio protected and carefully transmitted, knowing that one day it would be necessary for a world in need of hope and divine connection. The olive tree, the first of these sacred plants, was not chosen at random by Padre Pio. In his personal writings, he revealed how this ancient plant has a direct connection with the most powerful blessings of heaven. From the ancient story of the dove that brought an olive branch to Noah, to Jesus' final prayers in the Garden of Olives, This plant has witnessed the most sacred moments of our spiritual history. Padre Pio used to tell the story of Mary, a woman from a small Italian town who planted an olive tree in her garden following his advice. For years, her family had faced seemingly endless financial difficulties, but something extraordinary began to happen. Not only did the tree grow with inexplicable vitality in poor soil, but with it, prosperity began to flourish in her home. The olive tree, Padre Pio said, is like a celestial antenna that attracts God's blessings. In his private teachings, the saint explained that the olive tree is not just a symbol, it is a real conduit of divine graces. Each leaf, according to him, vibrates with a spiritual frequency that harmonizes the home environment. The testimonies of those who followed this advice are astonishing. Homes that experienced inexplicable healings, miraculous family reconciliations, and a peace that defied all human logic. But Padre Pio warned about something crucial regarding the olive tree. It must be planted with a specific intention. It is not enough to have the tree. It must be consecrated through prayer. He taught a special prayer for this purpose, whispered among his closest followers, "Lord, as this olive tree sinks its roots into the earth, may your blessing take root in this home. May each leaf be a channel of your grace, and each branch an arm of your protection." The records of the San Giovanni Rotondo convent hold extraordinary testimonies. A family from Bari, who had lost all hope after years of conflict, planted an olive tree following Padre Pio's instructions. In less than a year, not only were all their members reconciled, but they experienced inexplicable prosperity in their businesses. The olive tree, the saint said, is like a lightning rod for heavenly blessings. But there is something even deeper. Padre Pio revealed that the olive tree has a unique ability to absorb and neutralize negative energies in the environment. In his personal writings, he described how he could see with his mystical gifts a golden light emanating from these sacred trees, creating a protective shield around the houses where they were planted. "It is as if God himself extended his protective hand through its branches," he used to say. The presence of an olive tree in the garden, according to the saint's teachings, not only attracts blessings, it also establishes a permanent link with divine protection. It is as if each olive tree planted with faith becomes a heavenly guardian of the home, a silent sentinel that keeps adversities away and continually attracts the graces of heaven. Basil, the second plant revealed by Padre Pio, represents a sacred mystery that has been preserved through the centuries. In his most intimate conversations, the saint spoke of how this humble herb possesses an extraordinary power to purify and protect the sacred spaces of the home. It is no coincidence that in many ancient churches in Italy, small pots of basil adorn the altars. Padre Pio shared with astonishment how he could perceive a special light emanating from basil plants, especially during moments of prayer. He described this light as a soft silver luminescence that created a protective field around it. In his most private writings, he recounted how this plant has the unique ability to absorb negative vibrations and transform them into blessings. There is the moving testimony of Antonio, a man tormented by recurring nightmares who turned to Padre Pio for help. The saint advised him to plant basil in his window and pray every night before sleeping. What happened next defies all rational explanation. The nightmares ceased completely, and his home was filled with an inexplicable peace that all visitors could perceive. The power of basil, according to Padre Pio's teachings, intensifies when it is cultivated with sacred intention. He taught that each leaf of this plant contains a divine essence capable of purifying the spiritual environment of the home. The testimonies of transformation are countless. Families who experienced a deep spiritual renewal, homes that became true sanctuaries of peace. But Padre Pio warned about a crucial aspect. Basil must be cultivated with love and dedication. It is not enough to have the plant. It must be cared for as a sacred gift. He taught a special practice. When watering the basil, a prayer of gratitude should be recited, recognizing in each drop of water a blessing from heaven that multiplies through its leaves. The convent archives hold the testimony of a family from Rome who, following this advice, experienced an extraordinary transformation. Their home, once full of conflicts and tensions, became a haven of peace and harmony. The mother of this family described how the aroma of basil seemed to intensify during moments of family prayer, as if the plant responded to the divine presence. Padre Pio revealed that basil has a special connection with guardian angels. In his moments of mystical ecstasy, he described how he could see angels congregate around these plants, using them as channels to pour blessings upon the home. Each basil leaf, he said, is like a small antenna that captures angelic blessings. The white rose, Padre Pio's third revelation, perhaps holds the deepest of sacred mysteries. During his last years of life, the saint spoke with special emotion about the extraordinary power of these immaculate flowers. In his moments of mystical ecstasy, he described how he could see threads of golden light emanating from each petal, weaving an invisible network of divine protection. The testimonies about the power of white roses in Padre Pio's life are extraordinary. Many witnesses recounted how during his moments of most intense prayer, an inexplicable perfume of roses flooded the environment, even when there were no flowers nearby. This phenomenon, known as the perfume of sanctity, manifested especially in moments of great miracles and spiritual conversions. There is the documented case of Lucy, a woman suffering from a terminal illness. Following Padre Pio's advice, she planted white roses in her garden. What happened next shocked the medical community. Not only did she experience an inexplicable recovery, but her home became a place of pilgrimage where other sick people found comfort and, in many cases, healing. Padre Pio taught that white roses have a special connection with the Virgin Mary. In his most intimate writings, he revealed how these flowers act as a bridge between heaven and earth, facilitating the intercession of the Mother of God. Each petal, he said, is like a blank page where angels write the prayers that ascend to heaven. But there is a special condition for cultivating these sacred roses. They must be planted with a pure heart and a specific intention. Padre Pio taught a particular practice. When planting each rose, a special intention should be offered, a prayer for a specific need. White roses, he said, are like love letters we send to heaven. The convent records hold astonishing testimonies of spiritual transformations linked to these flowers. A family from Milan, who had lost their son in tragic circumstances, found inexplicable comfort after creating a garden of white roses. The mother recounted how on the most difficult nights, the perfume of the roses seemed to intensify, bringing a peace that surpassed all understanding. The power of white roses, according to Padre Pio, is multiplied when they are cultivated in conjunction with the olive tree and basil. It is as if these three sacred plants create a heavenly symphony, each contributing its unique note to the melody of divine blessings. Testimonies speak of homes transformed into true sanctuaries, where the presence of God becomes almost tangible. Padre Pio's wisdom about these three sacred plants goes beyond simple cultivation. It represents a deep spiritual science that unites heaven and earth. During his last years of life, the saint revealed specific details about how these plants should interact with each other to maximize their blessed power. In the sacred garden that Padre Pio envisioned, the olive tree should be planted in the center, like a celestial anchor that establishes the foundation of blessings. Around it, basil should be arranged in the shape of a cross, creating 4 cardinal points of spiritual protection. White roses, for their part, should surround this sacred ensemble, forming a protective circle that seals the blessings within the family space. The testimonies of those who have followed these precise instructions are extraordinary. A family from Tuscany, who for generations had experienced inexplicable difficulties, implemented this sacred arrangement in their garden. In less than a year, they reported how blessings began to flow abundantly, family reconciliations, economic improvements, and a peace that transformed not only their home, but the entire neighborhood. Padre Pio taught that there is a specific time of day to interact with these sacred plants: dawn. In his most private writings, he described how the first lights of the day charge these plants with a special energy, a divine power that remains active for the next 24 hours. He recommended a simple but powerful ritual. At daybreak, approach the sacred garden, make the sign of the cross, and recite a prayer of gratitude. The convent documents preserve the testimony of a woman from Palermo who, following these specific instructions, witnessed an extraordinary miracle. Her son, who had been away from the faith for decades, experienced a profound conversion after spending time in the sacred garden. According to her account, every morning he perceived an inexplicable aroma that filled him with a peace never before experienced. The combined power of these 3 plants, Padre Pio explained, creates a specific spiritual frequency that angels can use as a direct channel for divine blessings. It is as if each plant emitted a different note, and together they created a heavenly melody that attracts the presence of God tangibly. The true power of this sacred garden, according to Padre Pio's deepest teachings, lies in its ability to create a continuous cycle of blessings. During his last days of life, the saint shared an extraordinary revelation about how these three plants worked in perfect harmony with the celestial cycles. When the sun begins its descent, Padre Pio explained, the olive tree acts as a night guardian, maintaining a silent vigil over the home. Its deep roots, which extend beneath the earth, create a protective shield that no negative force can penetrate. During these hours, basil enters a state of sacred rest, purifying the environment of any discordant energy accumulated during the day. White roses, for their part, intensify their heavenly fragrance, as if they were in direct communication with guardian angels. In the convent archives, the moving testimony of a family from Sicily is preserved, who experienced this sacred cycle in an extraordinary way. During a period of severe economic hardship, they noticed how every night the garden seemed to emit a soft luminescence. Coincidentally, they began to receive unexpected aid and opportunities that completely transformed their situation. Padre Pio revealed that this sacred garden not only protects and blesses, but also has the power to heal deep spiritual wounds. He described how he could see, with his mystical gifts, threads of golden light emanating from the plants and gently enveloping those who approached with faith. These threads of light, he explained, had the power to restore the spiritual and emotional balance of people. A particular observation of the saint was how these plants responded to family prayer. When a family gathered to pray near the sacred garden, the plants seemed to vibrate with a special energy. Some witnesses reported seeing dewdrops inexplicably form on the leaves during these moments of prayer, even on dry and hot days. Padre Pio's teachings emphasized that this sacred garden should be considered as another member of the family, a silent guardian who actively participates in the spiritual life of the home. Each plant, he said, has its own sacred personality and responds uniquely to the specific needs of each family. The story of Mary Eleanor, a single mother from a small town near Naples, perhaps represents the most powerful testimony of the transformative impact of these three sacred plants. Her life had been a succession of hardships that seemed to have no end until an old follower of Padre Pio shared these sacred teachings with her. With her last savings and unwavering faith, Mary Elena prepared a small corner in her modest patio. Following Padre Pio's precise instructions, she planted the olive tree in the center, surrounding it with basil in the shape of a cross and completing the sacred circle with white roses. The neighbors, skeptical at first, watched her daily efforts to keep this garden alive in the midst of drought. What happened in the following months shocked the entire community. Her son, who had been bedridden for years due to a disease that doctors could not diagnose, began to show signs of improvement. Doctors could not explain how, but every day the boy regained more strength. Mary Elena noticed that her son felt especially well when he spent time near the sacred garden. But the transformation was not limited to her son's health. Inexplicably, opportunities began to arise in her life. A better paying job, a school scholarship for her son, and most surprising, her home became a reference point for people seeking comfort and hope. Visitors reported feeling an inexplicable peace upon entering her garden, and many experienced healings and blessings after spending time there. Mary Elena's case is not unique. The convent archives are full of similar testimonies. Families on the verge of eviction who found miraculous solutions, terminally ill patients who experienced inexplicable recoveries, broken relationships that were restored extraordinarily. All these miracles had a common denominator: the presence of these three sacred plants cultivated according to Padre Pio's teachings. The deepest transformation, however, occurs within those who care for these plants with devotion. As Padre Pio used to say, it is not the plants that change your life, it is your faith acting through them that attracts the blessings of heaven. Each leaf, each flower, each branch becomes a tangible reminder of God's constant presence in our lives. At this crucial moment in your spiritual life, you find yourself facing a transformative decision. Padre Pio's sacred teachings about these three powerful plants are not simple gardening tips. They are heavenly keys that can open the doors to a new dimension of blessings in your life. Think for a moment about your current home. How many times have you felt that something is missing, that you need special protection, a deeper blessing. The signs are there. That feeling of unease, that need for peace that you cannot achieve, those problems that seem to have no solution. Padre Pio, in his infinite wisdom, left us these 3 sacred plants as a gift from heaven, a divine tool to transform our lives. The time to act is now. Every day that passes without these sacred plants in your home is a day less of blessings, a day less of divine protection, a day less of spiritual abundance. The testimonies we have shared are not coincidences. They are living proof of the transformative power that these plants can have in your life. I invite you to take the first step. Start with just 1 plant if necessary, perhaps the olive tree, that heavenly guardian that attracts prosperity, or basil, which purifies your space of all negativity, or perhaps the white roses, which open a direct channel with the intercession of the Virgin Mary. The important thing is to start, to take that first step with faith and determination. You are not alone on this path. Thousands of people around the world are already experiencing the transformative power of these sacred plants. Their testimonies reach us day after day. Miraculous healings, family reconciliations, economic blessings, inexplicable peace. Why not you? Why not your family? Why not your home? Padre Pio left us this sacred legacy for a reason. He knew that difficult times would come when we would need a special connection with heaven. That time is now. Your time is now. The decision is in your hands. Will you continue as before, or will you dare to open the doors to a new dimension of heavenly blessings? I invite you to share this message with others who also need these blessings. Subscribe to our channel, activate the notification bell, and join our community of people who are experiencing the transformative power of these sacred plants. Together, we can create a network of blessed homes, a living testimony of God's power and mercy.